this is Dana Gardner, Principal Analyst at Inter Arbor Solutions, and you're listening to Briefings Direct. Worker productivity, despite 30 years of computing technology rollouts, remains hard to measure by economists. Ask a worker, however, and you're increasingly likely to get a hard, cold assessment. A huge amount of time these days, they're saying, is wasted on the inefficiencies of technology run amok. Only a sliver of time is going to the creative and innovative types of work that employees crave and employers gain the most value from. Stay with us now as we explore the future of work and the new ways of exploiting what technology does best to deliver intelligent workspaces that prioritize and personalize tasks. To learn how the newest workspaces will help unburden those saddled with deflated productivity, please join me in welcoming our guest. We're here with Fouad El-Naghri. He's Vice President of Future of Work Products at Citrix. Welcome, Fouad.
Hey, Dana. Thanks for having me.
You bet. So, Fouad, why, when we walk through the front door of our office buildings, are we being teleported back 20 years?
Well, I mean, it's kind of crazy when you think about it. Every one of us has this nice black rectangle that sits in our pocket. And when you think about what that rectangle in our pocket enables us to do, I mean, it's crazy. The world that we live in today, I can push a button and a car shows up and takes me wherever I want to go. I can swipe right and I'm on a date. You know, I'm old. I remember when you had to like go up and talk to people at a bar or talk to people at a restaurant or talk to people at like a concert and go kind of do this big dance to get them to go out with you for a meal. And now I'm swiping right. If I think back to kind of when I started working, like I used to have to memorize like 5 different routes to work. And I'd get together with my friends and we would share secret shortcuts on how we could shave 2 or 3 minutes off of our commute. And now I hit a button on Waze and, type in my address and I'm getting to work and I'm getting home and I know I'm getting there in the fastest way possible. I can push a button on my phone and a pint of ice cream comes to my house. So I can eat away the disappointment of another Philadelphia Eagles loss. This is magical. The world that we're living in today is magical. If I had to explain this to a young Fouad in the mid-1990s and say, imagine this world. I mean, when I started working, I remember showing up to my office the first day and laughing at people that were still using typewriters. The world that we're living in today is so insane and so amazing. But then you walk through the front door of your office, and guess what? That Fouad from the mid-1990s, starting out in New York, he would 100% recognize the office that he was walking into. Bad guest Wi-Fi, signing in on a clipboard, where people are writing Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck, plugging a laptop into one of those light bulb and fan projectors that's got a VGA adapter on the end of it, working on some horrible, crappy laptop that takes 2 minutes to open a big Excel file. It's crazy. It's crazy. The Fouad from 20 years ago would not even imagine the consumer world that we're living in today, but was actually working in the working world that we're living in today. And that's why I always tell people, it's amazing. Every one of us is a consumer. Every one of us has these amazing experiences with our devices and where the world is going to today. And then you walk through the front door of work and it's like I took a wormhole back to the 1990s. It's insane.
Yeah, I know. It's like we took what used to be client-server applications, we put a web interface on them, and we gave up. Not much has happened since then. So what's the solution? How do we go from this inertia, this lack of momentum for innovation, and do we just add more onto the old stuff, or do we have to reinvent everything?
You bring up just an incredible point. This idea, and again, I live in Silicon Valley, so it's probably the worst here, where people are bringing out those medieval times bugles and blowing horns and celebrating the wonderful world of SaaS software. And the crazy thing is they think that because they took Siebel Systems and put it into a web browser and called it Salesforce, and they took PeopleSoft and put it into a web browser and called it Workday, that they are somehow dramatically changing how work happens. When you actually look at those systems side by side, it's like the same tabs, it's the same menus, it's the same workflows, literally nothing. I think Salesforce is celebrating their 20th anniversary this year. It's literally nothing has changed. The way that you use those systems is the same way that you use those systems in the 1990s. But like you said, they were just kind of client server instead of in the web. And it's sad. It's sad when you think about it, because for the first kind of 30 years of enterprise software, when you think about the investments that went in digitizing the back office, giving people personal computers, connecting those computers with the internet so that we could have emails, that we could communicate with people in our companies around the world any time of the day, those investments changed the way we worked. The investments that we were making were driving huge changes in the employee experience, huge changes in employee engagement, huge changes in employee productivity. You could do so much more. We were doubling individual productivity every 20 years. Think about that. I mean, I've sadly been in the workforce for over 20 years, but it used to take 2 FUADs to do what 1 FUAD can do today. And so we had all this incredible investment, all this incredible innovation, and then all of a sudden we hit a roadblock. And you look at like the last 15 years of enterprise software and what's really changed. Again, taking a client server system and putting it into a browser, putting some crappy, over-bloated implementation of those same systems onto a mobile device that nobody wants to use. I mean, that's not really innovation, right? That's not really changing how we work. And so when I think about the future of work, I think we're going to attack that fundamental problem that our processes and workflows haven't really changed. And that's where you got to start.
What's changed for me is instead of spending just 2 hours a day on email, I'm spending 5 hours a day on text and chat and Slack and Teams and email, but I don't seem to have gotten anything for it. Am I unusual?
No, I mean, it's exactly right. I think collaboration is a big part of work. When you think about the whole premise of a corporation, you think about why corporations were even formed. The idea was that as a group, if we put a group of specialists together that were each specialists in different functions, as a group, we could achieve more than we could as an individual. And so, yes, collaboration is important, but also being able to deliver on kind of your special skill is important. And I think as we keep layering on more and more, air quotes, collaboration tools, you've ended up in a world where there's just a ton of noise. To your point, it's like, great, I've got an email notification. Great, I've got a Slack notification. Great, I've got a team notification. Great, my salesperson just texted my phone. There was some research that came out at the beginning of this year. We're interrupted 1,100 times a day at work. 1,100 times a day at work. Think about that for a second. It's insane. How can we even get any work done? To your point, you used to maybe do email for 2 hours a day. I think the typical person now does email about 17 hours a week. And then on top of that, we've got all these other different systems, all these different vectors for people to interrupt us and try and communicate with us and try and collaborate. And a lot of times it's just noise. You know, I don't know if your email inbox looks like mine, but it's kind of a dumpster. Do you know what I mean? It's like a unprotected place where people can sit there and either buy my email address off like Ranking and Discover, or they can guess fuad.elnagar@citrix.com or fuad@citrix.com or felnagar@citrix.com and try one of those things and get to me. And so what does my inbox end up looking like? Well, I've got random vendors and people that have bought my email and are spamming it. You know, I've got Groupons in there. I've got Nigerian print scams in there. My wife maybe autofills an email and it goes to my work email instead of my personal email. And in the sea of all that noise and distraction, I'm expected to get my work done. And then you think about these chat clients. You know, I've talked with CIOs at some of the biggest companies in the world, and they measure what happens in Slack and they measure what happens in Teams, and it's a bunch of noise. It's like, hey guys, there's a cake in the kitchen. Hey guys, you know, here's a funny new animated GIF. Here's a meme. It's a bunch of noise, and so we're adding a lot to the noise and distraction level. And you know, I think what's been lost in the mix is how that really hurts the employee experience, really hurts employee engagement, and really kills employee productivity.
So sadly, my solution to that was to work on Saturdays so that I wouldn't be interrupted, and I would wait and do all my creative work, and I'd actually get something done that allowed me to concentrate on the same subject for more than 25 minutes. But that's not good because now I'm working 6 days a week. You know, what is the type of work that people do want to do, and how do we let them be creative and sort of exploit what their brains were designed to do? How do we get out of this rut?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a great point. And, you know, what I'll add to it is that you're actually engaged in your work. You love what you do. You want to work on your skill. You want to be successful. So you will work on the weekend to get your stuff done. But what I should frame this whole discussion with is 2/3 to 80% of employees are not engaged with their work. They're not emotionally aligned with the mission or goals of the company. And so whereas you will sit there and say, okay, I got to get my job done. I want to be great at this. I want to be exceptional at this. I'm going to sit there and work after hours and work on the weekend to get things done. A lot of people don't. They're punching the clock. They're not engaged with work. They're disengaged with work. And that's a huge problem. That's a huge problem. And part of the reason that they get disengaged with work or get actively disengaged with work, where they like hate where they work, they hate their boss, they're trying to destroy it from within, is a lot of these systems that we've put in place are creating friction for them, are creating busy work for them, are creating the kind of work that is not what you signed up to do. You know, we talked a little bit earlier about people being specialists. Each one of us has kind of a special, unique skill. It's the thing that we put on our resume. It's the thing that we put on our LinkedIn. Now, if you go look at my LinkedIn, you know, you can go check it out. Here's what you're not going to see. You're not going to see any merit badges on there because I'm awesome at using Concur. You're not going to see any credentials that say Fuad is really good at finding information on Tableau. You're not going to see anything in there that says I'm unbelievable at using the procurement system to make things happen. None of those things are my core skill. None of those things are the thing that differentiates me in the marketplace. But if you think about where people are spending their time today, they're spending over half their time on what they consider busy work. This BS stuff like expense reports and PTO reports and finding information across different systems and meetings that don't matter to them, doing a bunch of copy and paste work. I saw some data like maybe 2 months ago. We at work, on average, copy and paste 134 times a day. And I saw this, I said, that can't be true. That can't be true. And so I started to actually track myself. And you know what I discovered? I copy and paste like 180 times a day at work. And that was frightening to me. But you realize, you know, again, you start realizing these things and it's like, oh my God, how many times am I in one system and I copy a piece of data and put it into an email? Or I copy something out of an email and put it into a form field in another system. All day long, we're sitting there kind of shuffling information between these different systems. And again, let me go back to kind of this idea that each of us has a unique special skill. Do you know what human beings want to do when they work? They want to develop that skill. They want to develop their craft. They want to hone their craft. They want to get better at what they do. They want to get better at what differentiates them because that's what's going to be the thing that allows them to, number one, create more value for their organization. Number two, set themselves up for a promotion, set themselves up for a new job, set themselves up to make more money. And these are the things that excite people at work. There's a lot of research out there around kind of total motivation, right? And what really drives engagement. And what they have found is that what people want is they want to have a feeling of play at work. They want to feel like they're using kind of their adaptive brain to be creative and solve problems. They want to have a sense of purpose. They want to know why are they at this company and why are they doing their job. There was some research that came out recently that said over 70% of people don't know why their job exists. Think about how frightening that is. They're like, why does my job even exist? So again, they want some kind of purpose. They want to know the work that I do contributes to this organization, how? Okay. And then the third thing they want is potential. They want to know that there's a pathway for them to develop their skills. And so to your question, and sorry for the rambling answer, but it's such like an important point. It's worth giving the context for. To your point, where people want to spend their time is working on their skill set. Okay, they want to work on individual products and kind of individual projects in unstructured time. They want to work on their skill, whether that's a developer and I want to work and have a nice big block of time to code, whether you're a writer, I want a big block of time to focus on research and crafting beautiful documents. Whether that's a salesperson, I want to spend my time in front of customers, evangelizing the vision of my product, evangelizing how I can help them achieve their goals. Every one of us has our skills that we want to work on. Working with my team to achieve something greater. That's where people want to spend their time because that's where they get this, again, sense of purpose for their work. They get a sense of play in their work because they're being creative and they're solving problems. And then they're setting themselves up for their potential, for their ability to kind of, again, move up the wage pyramid, get that promotion, get that next job.
Well, the good news is that those types of functions are exactly what AI and machine learning and robotic automation can't do. So it's good that people want to do that. The problem is there's no one app that allows me to do that. I still have 45 apps that I have to cut and paste from. So how do we bridge this? How do we go from having to have umpteen apps to having more of what's creative and appropriate for people to do?
It's a great question, and it's the question that we had 6+ years ago when we started my company, Sappho, which Citrix acquired about a year ago. And we were looking at this landscape exactly like you say, you know, the number of applications, because we were at CBS, I was the chief strategy officer over there, and my co-founder, he was the CTO and CIO over there. And we were looking at our universe as a Fortune 100 company. We were looking at the reality of our day-to-day, and we said, oh my God, we've got incredible app sprawl. To your point, I think Symantec just released a report saying that the typical enterprise is managing 928 applications. Okay, some of the banks that we work with have 8,000 applications. So there's this incredible app sprawl. And by the way, the Symantec report says that it's grown by 60% in the last 3 years because we're not deprecating these old workloads. We're keeping them and we're adding more cloud point solutions on it. So work is becoming more complex. You know, the typical person's using 42 apps to do their job, and it's growing. So it's becoming more complex. And so we looked at that, and to your point, it's like, well, okay, how do we stop the context switching? How do we stop the copy and paste? How do we, again, shift time away from busy work and towards value creation? And what we kind of came upon was this idea that, you know what, because of the evolution of APIs, because of the evolution of machine learning, because of the evolution around identity, there's an opportunity for us to build a system of engagement and intelligence that sits horizontally and plugs into all those systems, but creates a single harmonious experience for the end user. And that was our big aha, and that's translated over to Citrix and the Workspace product here. It's this idea that for 30 years in the enterprise, there's been this kind of concept, and the concept has been that the front end and the back end of the system that you buy have to be stuck together. So I go and I buy an SAP ERP, and I get this incredible back end. It's amazing. It solves all these problems like two-phase commits. But guess what? You're stuck with this front end that's the best that German engineering can imagine, which of course is not like a modern user experience. And so for 30 years of enterprise, there was this view that, well, you know, if you've got that system, you've got to take the good and the bad. And what we came along and said is, no, keep the good, keep the back end. But let's now take advantage of the API economy and what we're seeing with integration. Let's connect into these things and abstract them into their tasks and then create this harmonious experience, this beautiful engagement layer that sits across it that allows somebody to kind of do their work and do these systems from kind of a single point. And now, again, that point can be headless. It can live in a messenger. It can live in email. It can live in the Workspace app. But it's this one choke point that says, I'm going to deliver you your work. I'm going to deliver you information. I'm going to help you make better decisions. Again, with step one being, can we shift the amount of time that you're spending on busy work and non-value creating work, which today, by the way, is like 80+% of your time. Can we flip the script on that so that people are spending less than 20% of their time doing that stuff and now spending 80+% of their time creating value, being creative, using their adaptive mind to solve problems and create value for the organization. That's step one in the journey, right? That's what we're doing with the Workspace now. And then to your point, and we can talk about this a little bit later, like the next step is actually even cooler. It's how do I supercharge you so that you're even better on the value creating stuff? But those are kind of two steps in a journey that we're helping a bunch of pretty large customers through right now.
I understand what you need to do, but why is Citrix the right organization to do it?
It's a great question, and you know, I spend a lot of time with customers. I think I've met about 250 customers in 2019, and they ask the same question: why Citrix? They know Citrix, and they're like, oh yeah, the gold standard in virtualization. You know, that's what you guys are known for. And what I tell them is, if you think about it, Citrix has actually always been on the forefront of the future of work because we've always sat between the end user and their systems of record. As we talk about developing a system of engagement and intelligence, being that layer that sits between the end user and all their different systems, guess what? Citrix has been doing that for 30 years. Whether you're talking about multi-user or MetaFrame or WinView or any of these products that Citrix has rolled out for, again, 30 years, whether it was remote desktop access, whether it was virtualization, we have always been the engagement layer between the end user and their systems of record. People know Citrix as the place to go to do their work. And now we're saying, guess what? The whole concept of an application has changed. The whole concept of work has changed. And we're sitting in that beautiful position between the end user and their systems already. So why not bring the value that we're talking about to that layer? Can we be something more than just a thin client that sits between you so that you can access your desktop remotely? Can we be something more than the thin client that sits between you and your virtual app and virtual desktop? Now, again, those things are important. People are still going to need to access virtual apps and virtual desktops in a secure way. But we're sitting there right now. We're integrated with these systems already. We're trusted by 99% of the Fortune 500 already. Why not use this position to help shepherd them through their journey? And again, it's always a journey. I laugh when I see people out there selling silver bullets or magical switches where they're like, we're going to solve employee experience with the snap of a finger. It's a journey. It's a journey. And we have the permission because, again, we own that engagement layer already to help our customers through that journey. And that journey is about, can we organize work more effectively? Can we guide people through their work more effectively? Can we automate their work more effectively? Again, to drive that shift in value creation so that people aren't spending 85% of their time doing busy work and garbage and can start spending 85% of their time creating value. So that's why Citrix, and hopefully it makes sense because there's a lot of people that are really interested in the workspace. They look at this and say, oh my God, this is the future. Our employees have already been trained by consumer applications on what to expect. They want a hub. They want a place that brings them stuff from all across the internet to a single location so that they can consume it effectively. They want AI to disappear into the background and assist them and make them better. You know what I mean? I talked earlier about Waze. I don't think about Waze as consumer AI, and I don't want people to think about Workspace as enterprise AI. What Waze is it just weaves into my natural experiences and makes them better. It makes me better. It gives me minutes back in my life. I get somewhere faster. And that's what we think about when we think about the workspace, weaving these experiences right into that solution so that it can, again, empower people. It can help them focus on creating value and the things that they actually want to do at work.
Okay, so Fouad, give me the elevator pitch. We've only got 3 minutes. Tell me what Citrix Workspace is, what it does, and why I want it.
Citrix Workspace is an experience-driven platform for work. So we have done all the work to make it easy for people to integrate into all of their different systems of record, unbundle those systems of record into microflows and micro applications. We've done all the work building the intelligence at the user level so that people can build a machine learning and AI to make work better. And then we've built the infrastructure to enable micro automation from the ground up, not from the top down like RPA. We've done all that so that we can, again, organize, guide, and automate people through work. So you think about the workspace, I can go there. It feeds me all of my different tasks, insights, and information that I need to make choices. It allows me to work at the edge. I don't have to log into 50 different apps to get my work done. My work comes to me. That's the key. Bringing work to the individual, assisting them through their work, guiding them through their work, organizing their work, reducing the amount of time that you have to spend having to find stuff so that you can spend your time doing stuff. That's what we're about now. That's the product that's going into GA here in a couple of weeks. And again, it's a journey. It's a journey for every customer because, again, you have to really think about, hey, what's our workflow and process today? How can we make it better? How can we unbundle it? That's really what we're delivering, a chance for people to unbundle and rethink how work is done, rethink how workflows are done, automate non-value creating repetitive tasks and busy work, and then ultimately deliver intelligence augmentation to the end user. So again, it's a platform for work. It's a place where people can get their work done and get their busy work done quickly so that they're not spending 20% of their time trying to find information or 50% of their time filling out TPS reports. We want to minimize all that stuff so that you can focus on your special skill, focus on your unique craft, and get better and better at your job so that you can create value for both yourself and your employer.
I want to customize this, but not to the point where I write it and be an application developer. How do you address a customization for people who are not developers?
Being able to customize without being a developer or investing in a bunch of spaghetti code that's super custom and, creates maintenance headaches over time. It's something that we spent a lot of time thinking about when we were at SAPA, and we brought that over here to Citrix. And again, what we did was we built, I always tell people we spent 4.5 years and spent $30 million building an incredible integration hub. So we make it really easy for a person, and I'm not going to say like a random person. I would say a person that can at least use like a BI tool to develop a report, because you need to understand like a data flow and a system. So maybe a business analyst, somebody who can build something in Tableau. So, that level of person. What we've done is we've made it really easy for people to, number one, integrate into their system, whether that's a SaaS system, whether it's a on-prem off-the-shelf system, whether it's a homegrown system, because that's where a lot of the value is sometime on these wacky homegrown systems that have been around for 20 years, but are still running some critical workflow that you want to modernize or enable people to access on different devices and different channel. We made it really easy to integrate in those things. We made it really easy to build and inherit any business logic that you've got in there, or understand, hey, here's the event that should drive a workflow. We made it really easy for people to unbundle the microflow, build little micro apps, and get them to any of these different channels. And so, again, what we did is said, okay, every time we build an integration, we want to make sure that we've got a bunch of pre-built, out-of-the-box micro apps that are ready to go. So these are things that we see at lots of different customers, and we say, here you go, customer, you've got a bunch of things that you can start using day one that we know create value, that we know hit use cases that lots of people have. But then on top of that, we've made it really simple with drag and drop tooling for people to go in and actually build that little custom microflow and micro app that they need on another system. Because again, a lot of times there's these user-initiated workflows that people want to build that are easy, but we've built the tooling, and this is a new thing for Citrix, but we've built this awesome tooling that makes it really easy for people to do that, to build a better interface. Because again, we're trying to build that system of engagement and intelligence that sits horizontally across these systems. Well, you got to make sure you can get into all those systems. And every organization is going to have their little skeletons in the closet. Sure, they're going to have Workday. Sure, they're going to have Concur. Sure, they're going to have Power BI. Sure, they're going to have Salesforce. And that's great. We want to make sure that we've got stuff ready to go for them. But they're also going to have something gnarly like a BMC Remedy or a PeopleSoft or some homegrown system that's still running on an AS400. And you got to be able to empower the customer to be able to build better experiences on top of those things. And that's what we do with the tooling, with the integration layer, with the event tracking that we do, the microflow builder and orchestration layer. All these things are designed to make it easy for somebody to, again, not to sit there and write code to deliver these things, but drag and drop components in place and make it possible.
Okay, so as you mentioned, Citrix Workspace is becoming generally available in November, but you also mentioned that there's another shoe to drop, this augmentation, once you've established the ability to gather the workspace capabilities. Explain to me, before we sign off, that next step. Where do we go next when it comes to augmenting the worker?
Yeah, no, intelligence augmentation is the North Star for this company. Again, we want to have intelligence-assisted workers. I'm sure you've seen the research out there about centaurs in like chess. It was really hard for grandmasters to be AI-driven chess things like Watson until they started working in conjunction with AI, and now they can use like an average ELO score chess player to beat a Watson because they're working in parallel with the AI, and that's the world that we're trying to build. So if you think about what we've been talking about, which is abstracting workflows out of these monolithic systems and turning them into these nice, simple microflows and micro apps at the individual level, what this means is that we're building this nice data set around what happens at work. And because we're tied into the system of record, it's not like RPA where we're screen scraping and guessing at stuff. We're actually connected into the systems that we can say, okay, this event is happening 1,000 times. This action's being taken at 1,000 times. Okay, great. Let's hotspot that and get rid of that repetitive task. That's step one. Then step two is saying, okay, what are these stacked actions that we see? What are things that we know every time your vacation is approved? What are the next 4 things that happen? Well, I can tell you that for most people, number one, they go to their calendar and they mark the days that they're going to be off as PTO. Then they go the day before PTO and they change their away message to say, I'm on PTO. If you've got any emergency, text me at this number. Maybe a week before PTO, they'll email the team and they'll say, hey, I'm gone for the next week. If you have anything critical, let me know so I can do it now. Maybe they'll go into their Outlook and create like a VIP escalation rule for an email from a customer so that it goes to their boss. Now, because we've broken things down to that microflow, micro app level, we can automate all that. Your PTO gets approved, we'll do those next 4 steps on your behalf. Now we've taken that workload away from you. Now, that's, again, admin-defined stacked actions, but then there's a next phase of automation, which we call system learn. System learn says, hey, every time Dana gets an expense report under $50, he approves it without even looking at the receipts. Because guess what? You're busy, Dana. You want to work on creating great content. You don't care about the time that you're spending doing expense reports. So now the system says, okay, 50 times out of 50, Dana approves a expense report under $40 without looking at it. Okay, why do I need to send him 50 notifications about expense reports under $40? Let me approve them on his behalf. And here are the 2 that look riskiest. And I can say, I've approved these 40 expense reports on your behalf. Here are the 2 that are out of band or risky. Would you like to do anything with that? Guess what? Now I've just taken 40 notifications out of your life. Now I've just taken 40 approvals out of your life, and I've made work easy. That's system learn. Now there's going to be another step on that, which is, okay, That's the first two are things that help you kind of shift your time to value creation. Get rid of that busy work that eats up your time, that eats up your bandwidth, that gets you disengaged at work. Now, that third tier, I call those first two tiers, that's kind of like autopilot, things that make driving simpler and easy. But now there's a next level, which we call co-pilot. These are things that help you become a better pilot, a better driver. This is saying, boy, Dana, I've noticed something across these two systems that you should know about that might be able to help your decisions. Oh, I've seen another group that's worked on a problem like this, and here was the output. Let me serve that up to you. That's that next level of machine learning and AI that we get to weave into the workspace because we're integrated at such a deep personal level, at the task level, at the atomic unit of work level, that we're able to see all these things going back and forth and start building some really, really cool algorithms across a really unique data set. I mean, if you think about it, there's nobody in the world that has this data set that we have. It's a horizontal cross system of record view of what is happening in an organization tied to individuals. That's really cool and gives us a lot of flexibility to really shoot for the moon on what's possible here with work.
We're just about out of time, but how should businesses and how should individual workers prepare themselves for the future you just described?
The way that they should kind of prepare themselves is, number one, as an organization, you need to say, when I think about the future, I need to be committed to delivering an incredible employee experience. Right now, I don't know how much you've read about like the intangible economy. I think for 100 years, companies were valued on this thing called book value. They took the value of all your property and plants and your equipment and photocopiers and company jets, and they said, okay, that's the replacement cost of your organization. Let me multiply it by 5 or 6, and that's what your company is worth. So if you look at like the S&P 500 in 1975, 80% of the market cap was tied to tangible values like that. The world that we're living in now is about intangible value. It's about human equity. The people who work for you are where the value is in your organization. If you look at the S&P today, 80% of the market cap is now not physical assets, but people, intangible assets, the knowledge that's in the brains of people that work for us. I always see people saying, oh, people are our most valuable assets, but I don't see a lot of organizations treating people as assets, treating them as their most valuable assets. And so what we're starting to see is some organizations have kind of this mental switch where they say, shoot, human equity is what matters. I need to figure out how I invest in human equity. I need to figure out how I not just attract the best talent, but that I empower that talent to be the best version of themselves and then keep them so that they're not churning out after 22 months like the typical millennial. That's what the organization needs to do. At the individual level, I think it's more important than ever for people to really understand, okay, number one, what's my skill? What's my craft? And then just get themselves mentally prepared to have that mindset that they've got to be adaptive. They've got to do adaptive problem solving because that's the value that they're going to create. The busy work and the stuff that eats up 80% of people's time today is going to disappear, right? Or it's going to be diminished. And really where you're going to shine and where you're going to kind of demonstrate your value to an organization and help yourself out over time is really thinking about, here's my skill, here's my craft, how do I hone it, how do I get better? And that's what kind of the individual needs to be thinking about here over the next few years as this future of work becomes more relevant to today.
I'm afraid we'll have to leave it there. You've been listening to a sponsored BriefingsDirect discussion on new ways of exploiting what technology does best to deliver intelligent workspaces that prioritize and personalize tasks. And we've learned how the newest workspace advances are helping unburden those saddled with deflated worker productivity. So a big thank you to our guest. We've been here with Fawad El-Nagar, Vice President of Future of Work Products at Citrix. Also, a big thank you to our audience for joining this BriefingsDirect Intelligent Workspaces discussion. I'm Dana Gardner, Principal Analyst at Inter Arbor Solutions, your host and moderator through this series of Citrix-sponsored BriefingsDirect discussions. Thanks again for listening. Please pass this along to your business community and do come back next time.